Hi everyone, welcome to Single Values. Today we're looking at Humacyte, and the biggest question is the approval date coming very soon? I think there's a very good sign that it is. If we look at it, past case that I found, I think I know why they didn't provide a date, particularly in this type of case. So if we're reviewing a stock called Sarepta Therapeutics, it's quite an interesting kind of timeline, and if we look at their stock chart later on, you'll see why. Like, it's sort of, we're in Humacyte is also heading in a very similar pathway as well in terms of how the share price is likely to respond when approval comes along. If we look at this company who has this drug called Exondys 51, and it's for muscular dystrophy, which it may or may not be that important in explaining things. Like, it was, basically the sample was quite small, but it also was for quite a rare disease. So then FDA kind of had a tough time kind of deciding, but there was no other drug on the market, so it kind of gave them a very hard decision. Do they approve something that doesn't have a large sample size with some effectiveness but not entirely that convincing? So then they took quite a lot of time. Originally they did get priority review in this case, and originally the approval date was for February the 26th, 2015. So we see here, so they got a PDUFA action date for a decision on application is February 26, 2015. But by February it rolls along, they actually asked for an extension. So what did FDA say to these guys? So in a notice received from the FDA, the Prescription Drug User Fee Action, the PDUFA date, has been extended to the 26th of May. And so that was basically a 3-month time frame on top. Originally it was 26th of February, 3 months later is 26th of May. But by the time May rolls along, these guys get another extension. So as it says, FDA will not complete the review of Eplison NDA by the PDUFA date. So this looks really terrible on the FDA because they gave a 3-month extension and now they're asking for another 3-month extension. So all of a sudden, when you start looking at this, you kind of go, okay, I think FDA in these situations, they don't want to give a date anymore, because back in 2016 it kind of looked really bad on them because you asked for a 3-month extension and then you're still not able to meet that 3-month extension. So then it starts looking pretty bad on them. Okay, so what did it say entirely? Well, basically it says, as we go here, today announced that the FDA has notified the company that they are continuing their review and internal discussions related to our pending NDA for Eplison and will not be able to complete their work by the PDUFA goal date of 26th of May. The FDA has communicated that they will continue to work past the PDUFA date and strive to complete the work in a timely manner as possible. So there we go. We kind of get that whole idea, that doesn't look good on them. They don't want to give dates in the future anymore. Like if they look at the past and they've gone through the situation before where they've done an extension by 3 months and then had to extend that, you can see why they don't want to give dates in the future again. So with Humacyte getting to that 9-month mark, I think we start to get a date from FDA. So what was the case eventually for this company? By June, they did get a decision from the FDA, but it was for more data. So it's pretty crazy, right? So firstly, they get a 6-month time frame, extend by 3 months. Then by June, they get a request for more data, which is which is not a nice kind of thing. You wait so long, but the good thing is by September 2016, they did get an approval. So that's nice about that. So I think everyone should remember that sometimes, hey, there's delays, but the main thing is the approval. And if we take a look at the share price, I think that's where you're going to be very happy, right? So basically we have this run up in 2015. So this massive jump from $12.80 to $25 once everyone knows that the submission has been completed, and then now it's like that 6 months waiting time, and then by February, when everyone's expecting the date, the review to happen, FDA says when an extension, the price drops from around $38 to $11.30. So it's really important lesson here that you're looking at this and going, whoa, you would be just shocked by that point, because FDA is like, we're taking a 3-month extension. But as time rolls along and people go, okay, this is a really cheap price, and closer to the next review date, people are buying it up again. So I think you got to learn from these things that, hey, sometimes the price drops heavily because people don't like waiting. FDA gives an extension, and then sometimes they need more data. So that's kind of the case. So by February, not by February, by October actually, which is actually September, not October. Like September, they get the approval, and the share price goes from about $27 to a high point of like $63. So it goes up more than double. But of course, as we see here, next trading day it kind of drops by quite a lot, back to $40. So there is that chance that it does overshoot. People kind of take their profits, and the stock kind of consolidates over time closer to the sales, and then we've ended up with a closing price at the end of 2017 of about $53. Got to as high as $58. So you can see it's kind of volatile ride, and the question is, what happens when approval comes along? Like, I think some pretty similar price action that we're likely to see the price kind of run up. Like if we get a review date on 9 months time, like on the 9 month time frame, then we kind of see the stock price run up to, I'm guessing, about $8, because that's generally when the price kind of held itself. And then if it gets approval, I think it jumps probably $15 to $20. I think that's a good kind of range. And then I think when people realize it does take a bit of time, that they're going to sell it down a little, and then people who are holding, they'll wait for the sales, and as the sales come through, then the stock rises back up again. So I don't know if the share price will react the same way for Humacyte, but you can kind of see here, like around August, when people are expecting an approval date, share price kind of rides up. Once they know there's a long wait, price kind of trades downwards. So same thing here, like once people know, stock price drops a lot because they don't like delays, they don't like waiting. Time is money in this case. But as we get an approval date, I kind of see the share price riding up again. I see it kind of riding close to the $7-8 mark, depending how the market feels. And then on approval, I think we're going to expect a big jump if it is approved. If it's not approved or more data is required, then I think stock pulls back a bit, obviously. But if it is getting approved, then it jumps up. Now, I think the data is very convincing in Humacyte's case, much more than this other drug. So I think we're heading in a very similar pathway. Once we get to 9 months, I think we hear something from the FDA. If not 9 months, then definitely on 10 months. It is very, very unheard of that these things are extended that much, unless the data is very, it's a small sample, or it's not complete, or there's a lot of doubt around it. Like potentially, I'd say for Humacyte, the ATEV kind of product is first in its class, and I think FDA just requires a lot of time. Like there is that element with the data that it is not as large as anyone would what they would prefer, but overall I think based on their data and also the extra data that's gained in Ukraine, which is pretty nice that they've also got that extra data, it is all very convincing, and also the doctors, a lot of surgeons, they were very convincing in their review as well. So I think we'll get a date very soon, either on the 9-month time frame or the 10-month or in between. So I think the minute 9 months hits, like you should really brace yourself that something could come along. I think the share price will trend up from there because there's going to be a lot of expectations that something's going to come along, and it's worth holding. I think the share price will jump quite a lot if there's an approval, because I think that's what a lot of people kind of have been wondering, what's going to happen afterwards. So if we look at the share price of Sarepta Therapeutics today, it's at $128. Of course, it is 2024, which is, what is it? 8 years later, so it's nice that the company actually built some good value over that time. It is a $12 billion company, so at that time, I think it was around 5-6 billion. So I mean, look at Humacyte's kind of valuation, 686 million, not billion. So yeah, like I think there's a lot of upside, particularly in their products. Like the minute ATEV is approved for trauma, it gives them such a good kind of financial base to like accelerate all their products, because their product can be used in multiple cases, but they just don't have enough financials to back it up, to do the trials, to get things done. We know for dialysis all the data is done. It is just a matter of submitting the application, and by the end of next year we could see an approval. And that's even bigger than trauma. So the value to this company is substantial if they can get these approvals. The problem is these approvals are just taking forever, which is like killing shareholders' patience. Hopefully not the wallets, Hopefully the gains will be great. But yeah, like I think this example of this company, it's a real nice example of the stuff that happens with these in the situation, but in the longer term it really pays off. So I think either 9 or 10 months, I think we kind of see an answer from the FDA, or if not, I think it's a terrible example FDA is setting in terms of giving a company a priority date and not really being able to keep it. Like, who sets a priority date if you don't think you have the time or expertise or skills to get there? So I think that's why they don't. That's why once they went over the priority date, they know that they've not met the deadline in the past, and I think someone's gone to them, at the chance that you don't get to 9 months, or that you don't get done in 9 months, which is 3 months on top of the 6 months, you don't want to look too bad, so don't set another 3-month date. So like, as potentially it might take 10 months. Hence why they haven't set a time, because they know it's a bad precedence to set any time frame now. So I think that's why we didn't get a time frame. It's not a matter of any problem with the company. It's just a matter of that they just take that long, and in the past they have taken this long, but eventually they will get there, whether it's 9 months, 10 months, 11 months. It hasn't there's not very many cases where it's taken over a year, unless they've required more data. Like the key thing is unless they require more data, but I don't think they in this case they need more data. It just looks like they just need the time. So I think I hope you find that useful. If you got any comments or questions, post below. Until next time, good luck investing, everyone.